a broad-based movement to advance the peaceful reunification of the Korean Peninsula through expanding Korean-led grassroots initiatives and building global support. All in for a free, united Korea, benefiting the world. Welcome, 2020 International Forum for One Korea.
안녕하십니까. 광복절 75주년 축하드립니다. Welcome to this International Forum in One Korea on the historic occasion of Korea's Liberation Day. My English name is Andrew Sul and my Korean name is Hyun-Jin. I am the Executive Vice President of Alliance for Korea United USA. I am very honored to serve as a moderator for today's forum. Greetings to all our participants joining us online, and a particular warm welcome to Korean audiences gathering live in provincial meetings in cities across the Republic of Korea, as well as at similar gatherings around the world. I am sure we are all keenly aware of the significant challenges caused by the current global pandemic. We appreciate your participation as we strive to keep connected, informed, engaged, while also staying healthy and safe. I want to especially thank all our speakers for making special effort to participate in this forum during such times and for making the necessary accommodations to share their perspectives with us in this virtual convening. The Global Forum is co-convened by Action for Korea United, the Global Peace Foundation, and Alliance for Korea United USA under the theme Realignment Amidst Global Changes, New Opportunities for Free and United Korea. Today's virtual forum on Zoom is part of an ongoing series that convenes prominent scholars, policymakers, and civil society leaders from Korea and the global community to examine key issues, identify new opportunities, and develop collaborative efforts toward a free and unified Korea. To start us off, please welcome Honorable Dr. Choong Kim, the co-chairman of Action for Korea United. Dr. Kim is a former chairman of the Committee on Foreign Affairs and Unification for the National Assembly of the Republic of Korea.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. I am Kim Choong, Chairman of the Institute for Peace and Unification of Korea. The Honorable Chairman Hyun-Jin, former Chairman Edwin Feulner of the Heritage Foundation, President Whan, Chairman William Parker, Chairman Huiyao Wang, Chairman James Flynn, Chairman Intexo, thank you for attending Realignment Amid Global Changes, New Opportunities for a Free and Unified Korea Forum on YouTube and Zoom. And I sincerely thank and welcome all of you watching this event online in Korea, United States, around the world. We Koreans have prayed and made great efforts for peaceful unification of the two Koreas, which have been divided for 70 years. But we still have no concrete and positive prospects for unification of two Koreas. In South Korea, we have 35,000 North Korean defectors since the 1990s. They had fled North Korea at their lives' risk. Please help and pray the North Korean defectors to reunite with their loved ones as soon as possible. I propose the following for the denuclearization of the Korean Peninsula and the reunification of two Koreas. The United Nations, the United States and China and other countries related to Korean Peninsula issue should not only discuss North Korea's nuclear issue, but also request that the unification of South and North Korea be discussed together. I hope that the way the United States and Russia cooperated in the German unification process could also be applied to one of the denuclearization of North Korea and the unification of two Koreas. During the United States and China delaying practical agreements on the denuclearization issue on the Korean Peninsula, North Korea is becoming a nuclear-armed state rapidly. This is very dangerous to the world, like a time bomb. In order to denuclearize North Korea, the countries concerned must keep the UN resolution, and the United States and China should fully agree and cooperate on this issue. I hope that today's forum, attended by prominent Korean issue experts from the world, will provide a new and innovative way to denuclearize and unify the Korean Peninsula. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Kim. Now let us welcome the International President of the Global Peace Foundation, Mr. James P. Flynn, in Washington, D.C.
Greetings from Washington, D.C. Welcome to this virtual convening of the International Forum on One Korea 2020. The Global Peace Foundation is proud to join with Action for Korea United, Alliance for Korea United USA, and other partners in organizing this important forum, convened in conjunction with the 75th Korea National Liberation Day. We greatly appreciate all who are participating today. Thank you, Chairman Choong Kim, for your remarks, and Mr. Andrew Sul for your able moderating. I also want to appreciate our featured speakers for this forum. Dr. Henry Wang of the Center for China and Globalization, Ambassador An Ho-young, Dr. William Parker of the East-West Institute Board, Dr. Edwin Feulner, founder of the Heritage Foundation, and Dr. Hyun-Jin Preston, founder and chairman of the Global Peace Foundation. Today, the world faces dramatically new and challenging circumstances. The unprecedented COVID-19 pandemic is reverberating around the world with far-reaching implications. Intensifying U.S.-China relations, unresolved urgent security issues on the divided Korean Peninsula, and many other regional and international crises are impacting the global order. Such circumstances call for fresh perspectives and comprehensive new strategies. The theme of our forum today, Realignment Amid Global Changes, New Opportunities for Free and Unified Korea, is both timely and relevant. The optimism in 2018 and 19 for major breakthroughs in finally resolving the divided Korea has evaporated. The geopolitical landscape now is dramatically different from just 1 year ago. Yet this tumultuous time of realignment can also open significant new opportunities. The distinguished speakers in today's forum will provide expert analysis and valuable insights on such opportunities to advance the cause of a free and unified Korea. Over the past decade, Action for Korea United, Global Peace Foundation, and partners have been actively building momentum for Korean-led, principled unification with international support. A unified Korea that upholds freedom, human rights, and the rule of law is not a distant dream, but an urgent, immediate priority. With the Korean Dream framework, together we can build a movement that can end the tragic division of the peninsula, unleash the great economic potential of a unified Korea, and foster a new era of peace and prosperity. Again, thank you for joining this important forum. We hope the contents will inform, inspire, and motivate you to participate in fulfilling one dream, one Korea, one world. Thank you very much. 감사합니다.
Thank you, Mr. Flynn. I'm pleased to introduce Ambassador Huiyao, President of the University of North Korean Studies in Seoul. He is a former ambassador of the Republic of Korea to the United States.
Friends of One Korea Forum around the world, such a pleasure to see you once again. 1 year ago today, we had a rather big gathering in Seoul, where I think almost all of you participated. And at the time, I had the pleasure of saying a few words. One of the things I said at the forum was this, which is, we do not know when, but one day we will have unification. So that's the reason why we must continue to think about unification and talk about unification and prepare for unification. That's what I said 1 year ago today. Today, I want to say the same thing, but I have to begin with one dire caveat. That is about something I would call unification index in my mind. That index for the past 1 year has been going downward, unfortunately. So when I talk about unification, I always say there are 3 dimensions of work. 1, national dimension within South Korea itself. 2, inter-Korean dimension between South and North Korea. 3, international dimension, especially among countries in Northeast Asia. So let us just try to look at those dimensions one by one. National dimension. I think the first thing we must get done in Korea is to build national consensus on the basis for unification. And I think that basis must include such values as freedom, democracy, and human rights, including right to choose and practice religion. Talking about those values, what I have to tell you is, the past 1 year, we saw many developments inimical to those values. Populism is everywhere. Large number of politicians, they are succumbing to temptation to use power in a very coercive manner. Nationalism of virulent, aggressive, and hostile type, again, is spreading around the world. And these developments, in fact, undermine those values we cherish, namely freedom, democracy, and human rights. And thus, in fact, it is undermining the basis for unification. Let me move on to inter-Korean relationship. Unification would have to be achieved in a peaceful manner between South and North Korea. If it is to be achieved in a peaceful manner, it in fact should be based upon respect and good faith between South and North Korea. So I just look upon my own government, Moon government. I don't think there is any shortage of respect and good faith from the South Korean government to North Korea. Unfortunately, North Korea is not reciprocating it. If anything, it continues to threaten South Korea with military provocations. It continues to pillory South Korea with contempt. Last June, it even bombed and destroyed inter-Korean liaison office, which in my mind was a symbol of exchange and communication between South and North Korea. I was just watching the scene of bombing and explosion of inter-Korean liaison office. If anything, it tells a story of frustration on the part of North Korea. Where does it come from? It comes from economic sanction, I guess. It comes from COVID-19, I guess. But at the same time, what North Korea must understand is this, which is it doesn't come from South Korea. It doesn't come from United States. It doesn't come from the international community. It comes from its obsession with its weapons of mass destruction. So the first thing which must happen is North Korea must give up nuclear weapons and try to learn how to approach South Korea with respect and good faith. That didn't happen for the past 1 year. If anything, it got even worse. So let me move on to the third dimension, which is international dimension. When we talk about unification, we often talk about lessons of Germany. And if there is very important one lesson to learn from German unification is international dimension. That is to say, German unification owes a lot to this partnership between President Bush of the United States and Chancellor Helmut Kohl of Germany. It's an illusion to think that that would have been possible without this partnership and without this common understanding among all the important nations related with German unification. So let us think about international relations in our part of the world, in Northeast Asia. Interstate relations in our part of the world, that unfortunately for the past 1 year has been moving from bad to worse. And this COVID-19, which is ravaging the whole world for the time being, it doesn't help. So let us just try to put them together. National dimension, inter-Korean dimension, and international dimension. For the past 1 year, as we already taken a look, things moved in a wrong direction. So that is the reason why I said, well, let's just try to be fair. Things have moved in the wrong direction for the past 1 year at all those important dimensions and levels. Am I worried? Yes, I am. But at the same time, it doesn't stop me from believing one day we will have unification. So that is the reason why I tell you we must keep on thinking about unification, talking about unification, and taking action to prepare for unification. That's what we have been doing all the time. That's what we will have to do for the coming 1 year. And next year, let me hope that all of us will be able to get together, well, not online, but offline for another big gathering among us and try to compare our notes. So until then, take care, be safe, and God bless you all. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Ambassador An, for your encouraging message to keep thinking, talking, and acting for our shared dream of unification for true freedom, democracy, and human rights for all Koreans. Hope we can meet in person next year at a big celebration of our progress. Our next speaker, Dr. Huiyao Wang, is a founder and president of the Center for China and Globalization in Beijing, a top non-government think tank in China. China's premier appointed Dr. Wang as a counselor of the State Council of China. Welcome, Dr. Wang.
Good day. My name is Wang Huiyao. I'm the founder and the president of Center for China and Globalization. I'm very pleased to attend this International Forum of One Korea conference today, and I want to salute the virtual space to send my congratulations for the opening of this conference, but also the congratulations of the Korea National Liberation Day. And thanks for the host, the co-host of this forum, and of course Dr. Moon for his ongoing commitment to this leadership to this conference. So for this conference, I think I attended before. I think it's a very good platform to get all the opinions, get all the suggestions, recommendations for peaceful reunification of Korea. And of course, China for a long time has been a firm and strong support of the nuclear-free and Korea peaceful unification and benefits to the Korea and also China's national interests. As a matter of fact, in 2014, when President Xi visited South Korea, he actually also endorsed and proposed peaceful reunification of the Korea Peninsula. And of course, as we all know, that Korea, and also as a united Korea, has been a neighbor for China for over 1,000 years, and also have always yearning for the unification among the Korean people, and of course, particularly after the last 70-some years of division and separation of the South and North Korea. And also, China and Korea have enjoyed a long history and has been a very good neighbor, and we hope that we want to see a peaceful and also prosperous Korea for the this future of the development of the Asia Pacific, and also in the North Asia as well. And so China is actually very much look for a peaceful process, and without interference of foreign influence, but also settled by the people in both North and South Korea. And as we all know that South Korea and North Korea has been experienced a lot of contact in the past, and also there's some conflict. But we are actually encouraged to see that some peaceful discussion process and the steps has been taken by both leaders of South Korea and North Korea. And as a matter of fact, as a think tank leaders in China, I would really hope for that the two Koreas can really get together and set aside their differences, and for the sake of peace in the peninsula, and of course also for the future prosperity together for the not only for Korea but also for the greater North Asia, but also for the world. So this is really very much in the interest of both Asia and the world. And of course now we can see the COVID-19 is really getting really widely spread, and as human beings in this world, we are facing more challenges. We are facing more nature's uncertainties. We are facing climate change. We even have a nuclear threat as well. So these are really very much needed global concerted efforts to combat all those differences and set aside the differences, but also we have to combat those challenges altogether. So I think that for China, I'm sure that as a think tank, I can think of is that China is really very much look forward to this peaceful negotiation process and reunification process of both South and North Korea, and we want to see a nuclear-free, of course, for the Korea Peninsula, and we also want to see there's no foreign influence in this area, that the things of the Korea can be settled and solved by the Korea people themselves. So with this, I really hope that this peaceful reunification process, this peaceful discussion process, this peaceful negotiation process can be really strengthened and continued, and also even intensified. So hope that this is really a great platform to talk about all the ideas, all the goodwills, and all the common bond, and all the histories that we share together. So China, of course, is really with this fighting COVID-19, and we also know that South Korea is doing quite well, and we hope that North Korea is also doing quite well. And we hope that in North Asia that we can contain this, and for Asia and for the world, so that we can really work together with the common objective to build this region as a peace, everlasting, and we want to really get rid of those risks that can trigger regional conflict. We're really looking for peace and stability and prosperity for both Koreas and for China, for North Asia, for Asia, and for the world. Once again, I appreciate this opportunity to speak to you at this virtual conference, and I also want to again thank the organizer of the conference and also the International Forum on Korea. And also, I would like to say that Center for China and Globalization is a leading non-government think tank in China, and we are ranked one of the top 100 think tanks in the world by University of Pennsylvania Global Think Tank Index. So we want to welcome all the initiative, all the collaborations from our friends in both Koreas and in Asia and around the world. And we look forward to seeing you in Beijing as well. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Dr. Wang, for your thoughtful remarks. We appreciate China's clear support to Korean-led, nuclear-free, and peaceful unification of the Korean Peninsula. The free and unified Korea will surely be a good neighbor of all and contribute to peace and prosperity in Northeast Asia and the world. Next, we will hear from Dr. William Parker III. He's a board director and past president and CEO of the East-West Institute, headquartered in New York. A former senior U.S. naval officer, Dr. Parker is a highly respected global security strategist. Welcome, Dr. Parker.
Hello from New York City. It is an honor to be joining the Global Peace Foundation again this year. North Korea's possession of nuclear weapons presents an existential threat to the security of South Korea, Japan, the United States, and America's friends and allies around the globe. The world is closer to its first exchange of nuclear weapons than at any time since the Cold War. Such an exchange could cause millions of casualties, incalculable ramifications on the global economy, and large areas of the globe to be uninhabitable for decades to come. Following decades of failed negotiations and other attempts to include the wildly expensive yet unsuccessful Sunshine Policy to prevent North Korea from becoming a fully nuclear-capable state, the world finds itself at a time when clear and decisive action must be taken to ensure the safety and security of the United States and our friends and allies. In an effort to resolve this situation, no instrument of national power should be removed from the United States' arsenal or those of our friends and allies. While kinetic use of the military should be considered as a near last resort, all options should be considered in an effort to remove North Korea's access to all weapons of mass casualties and mass destruction. Specifically, I believe North Korea should not be allowed to retain its nuclear weapons capability. I similarly believe that combat operations on the peninsula should be the last resort to removing that nuclear capability, and that the best solution to tensions on the peninsula and the resolution of nuclear issue should be resolved from within the peninsula itself, with actual assistance from external sources only when necessary. There are potential scaled options to prevent North Korea's continued possession of nuclear weapons and hopefully avoid combat operations on the peninsula or elsewhere. But first, there are several assumptions that must be considered. First, Kim Jong-un will not eliminate his nuclear program without significant external coercion or pressure from within. Second, Kim Jong-un will use all means at his disposal to remain in power, These means include the use of weapons of mass destruction, to include chemical, biological, radiological, nuclear, and high-yield explosive weapons. Third, cyber attacks from North Korea on infrastructure, to include banking, business, and medical services, are likely as retaliation. Fourth, special forces and other clandestine incursions into South Korea, Japan, Guam, and the continental United States are likely as retaliation. Fifth, electromagnetic pulse attacks will likely be seen. And threats to starve his own people and blame their suffering on the United States and allies is not out of the question. I believe the military and political elites in North Korea are extraordinarily angry at and fearful of Kim Jong-un for his execution of members of the North Korean royal family and other senior leaders, and that the North Korean elites are capable of running North Korea if Kim Jong-un were to lose power. Additionally, it is likely that other regional players have approached members of those North Korean elites to ensure that a post-Kim regime would be aligned with the interests of other regional players. And while North Korean elites may not be immediately prepared for transition to a democratic system, they strongly desire to look more like South Korea than they do North Korea's other neighbors. In my view, if North Korea's nuclear program is not eliminated, South Korea and Japan will likely become nuclear nations in the near term. The Chinese will respond with increased nuclear weapons and defensive capabilities. Iran would also likely follow the North Koreans' nuclear efforts if North Korea, quote, got away with it, unquote. And you would see that being followed by Iran's Sunni rivals in the Middle East and beyond. This nuclear proliferation will greatly increase the risk of losing control of fissile material worldwide and possibly result in a radiological event in the United States or elsewhere around the globe. The United Nations security resolutions against North Korea do not impact the regime fast enough, nor are other countries of the United Nations fully implementing the sanctions in such a manner that the Kim regime is fully impacted. The United States and its allies should seek to remove all nuclear and other weapons of mass destruction from the DPRK and should pursue the longer-term goal of a unified peninsula that is aligned politically and economically with a democratic system. There are opportunities here. While the current crisis presents enormous risks, it also presents opportunities. Opportunities to eliminate once and for all weapons of mass destruction from the Korean Peninsula. An opportunity to allow China to play a constructive role as an emerging great power. To welcome the people of North Korea to the world of responsible nations. In the longer term, it may allow reunification of the Korean people under a government that is supportive of freedoms found only in democracies. In addition to serving democratic interests and those of allies around the world and the elimination of these weapons of mass destruction and successful reunification under a democratic government, it would also significantly decrease the suffering of more than 25 million North Koreans. There are many options. There are options to resolve this issue on the peninsula. Those options start with the least impactful to the most impactful, from the least draconian to the most draconian, from the least impact on human life to the most impact on human life. Cutting off the flow of oil to North Korea completely is a start. A comprehensive strategic communication effort with North Korea that basically says, look, you are starving because you are allowing Kim to live lavishly while your life is threatened because the rest of the world will not put up with weapons of mass destruction and specifically nuclear weapons to be controlled by Kim Jong-un. To tighten the worldwide proliferation security initiative that requires countries to inspect and seize contraband materials leaving or entering North Korea. This effort should include ensuring China joins the 195 nations already supporting the initiative. Execute a military blockade with Russia, South Korea, and China of all goods and services. Again, I want to emphasize this is in order of draconian efforts. We start out very simple and then we get more complex and more hardcore as we move down the list of items that we can take in order to impact Kim Jong-un and his regime as they control nuclear weapons today. The removal of Kim Jong-un by assisting North Korean elites to assume power with a plan in place of what a democratic-led country would look like is also an option. And then finally, a limited strike of all nuclear and communications capability and simultaneously remove the most senior political and military leaders from that country, followed by a strategic strike on the peninsula. These are terrible options, but another terrible option is keeping weapons of mass destruction in the hands of someone like Kim Jong-un. But there may be another way to look at this. Dr. Moon's Korean dream, a vision for a unified Korea, offers a different roadmap to the above, and one that should be seriously considered as part of the above effort. It is a call for action for Koreans and supporters everywhere to achieve a new nation rooted in a common past. Dr. Moon offers an innovative way forward for the Korean Peninsula that at its heart is Korean-led. He offers that ultimately Korean reunification is the only long-term solution to security, economic, and social problems created throughout the 72-year division of the peninsula. In summary, Dr. Moon's Korean dream is a strategic plan that calls upon the world to reunify the Korean peninsula with leadership for the reunification starting on the peninsula. Today, right now, we have an opportunity to once and for all eliminate all nuclear weapons from the Korean peninsula and serve as an example for the rest of the world while simultaneously reunifying Korea. The issue of a nuclear North Korea goes well beyond the Kim Jong-un regime. As I implied before, if North Korea is allowed to continue its nuclear weapons program, the Japanese and South Koreans will likely be forced to build an advanced nuclear weapons program of their own. For both Japan and South Korea, this nuclear program will provide a type of mutually assured destruction capability, and that paradigm would prevent even the most radical thinking dictators from using their weapons against other nuclear nations. But it doesn't stop there. If Japan becomes nuclear, China will undoubtedly feel a need to expand its weapon systems. In the meanwhile, Iran and other nations will watch as North Korea, quote, gets away with it and develop a nuclear program that threatens world peace, and as many of you know, will likely cause the proliferation throughout the Gulf states and others to building their own weapon systems in the coming decade. And why does all this matter to the average global citizen? Because we will lose control of the massive amounts of fissile material being developed, and somewhere soon a nuclear device will change the world in ways that make 9/11 seem somewhat insignificant. This is an opportunity. Today we have that opportunity to impact not only the Korean Peninsula, but the globe. But in order to do so, a thoughtful approach, a strategic approach, one like Dr. Moon offers, one like the steps offered above provide. If we do these things, we could have a reunified Korea, a Korea without weapons of mass destruction. If we don't, I fear that an expansion of nuclear weapons around the globe is a strong possibility in the very near future. Thank you very much for your time, and I wish you the very best throughout this conference.
Thank you, Dr. Parker, for your keen analysis on the dire consequences of the ongoing nuclear crisis and for your clear perspectives on solutions. You also strategically link the U.S.-led denuclearization strategies to the larger context of Korean-led unification with the Korean Dream approach, as well as identify the great opportunity for cooperation amid the U.S.-China conflicts. Thank you once again. I am very happy to introduce our next speaker, Dr. Edwin J. Feulner, the founder and former president of the prestigious Heritage Foundation in Washington, D.C., which he led for nearly 4 decades, a longtime friend of Korea and champion of the U.S. ROK Alliance. Dr. Feulner was awarded the Hwan Medal, Order of Diplomatic Service by the President and National Assembly of Korea, and the Presidential Citizen Award of the United States. Welcome, Dr. Feulner.
Greetings to all my friends in Korea, here in the United States, and around the world on this important milestone day commemorating Korea's independence and the quest for a free and unified peninsula. My warmest regards are extended to the virtual gathering, to all those assembled leaders of Action for Korea United, to my good friend Global Peace Foundation leader Dr. Hyun-Jin Preston Moon, Dr. William Parker of the East-West Institute Board, and to each of you. Throughout my professional life, I've had a deep interest in Korea and a heartfelt connection with its people. I believe that today Korea stands at an important transition point. While the peninsula remains divided, this forum is examining new opportunities for a free and unified Korea as we witness global changes and new emerging alignments in 2020 and beyond. In this context, the U.S. ROK Japan alliance must remain strong as an important foundation for peace and prosperity in Northeast Asia. More than ever, scholars and policy experts, faced with the failure of past efforts to improve the situation on the peninsula, see Korean unification as the necessary way forward, even though it will be challenging to achieve. It makes Dr. Hyun-Jin Preston Moon's book, Korean Dream, recently re-released in observance of the centenary of Korea's 1919 Semil independence movement, most timely. One of the most noteworthy and original aspects of Korean Dream is its emphasis on the importance of an overarching vision for a unified Korea, and then the principles that should guide that vision and the need for a vigorous civil society to play a central role in the pursuit of unification. I was pleased to be invited by Dr. Moon to write the foreword to his book, which stresses the shared value of history and culture that have bound the Korean people together for thousands of years. It emphasizes the principle of Hongik Ingan, which means to live for the greater benefit of humanity, a principle that is associated with the very origin of the Korean nation. This principle has served as an inspirational ideal and a moral touchstone throughout the course of Korean history. It highlights the need to move the pursuit of unification outside the exclusive sphere of government to engage the support of the Korean people as a whole. Dr. Moon examines in the first instance the people of South Korea, followed by Koreans in the diaspora, particularly in the United States, as well as in Japan and China. Civil society organizations are the instruments that are central for creating this engagement. I have long been an advocate of the importance of the private voluntary associations that form civil society and that are the expressions of a healthy, vibrant democracy with widespread citizen involvement. The mobilization of citizen groups around common principles, particularly with the common goal of unification, will have huge significance for the future of Koreans in both parts of the Korean peninsula. Dr. Moon describes the beginning of such a process through the establishment of Action for Korea United. this coalition of organizations committed to developing a peaceful, prosperous, and united future for the Korean people. I've had the honor of participating in a number of meetings of this organization, and I can attest to the energy and hope generated as a unifying set of principles that can be translated into practical initiatives. I congratulate all of the AKU grassroots leaders in Korea and across the diaspora in your steady progress and presence on this anniversary of Korean independence. Finally, it's my conviction that the bedrock of a successful civil society is belief in a divine being, and that this belief forms a basis for principled human interaction. That's also the view expressed in Dr. Moon's Korean Dream book, as it looks to the foundations for peace in the future, not just on the Korean Peninsula, but in the wider world as well. And so today, I salute and join you in this task in support of the destiny of the Korean people to live in freedom and prosperity as one nation, furthering peace throughout Northeast Asia and the world. 감사합니다.
Thank you, Dr. Feulner, for once again contributing your significant insights and leadership for the cause of a free and unified Korea. Your emphasis on the important roles of civil society is particularly relevant, giving valuable encouragement to the many activists and grassroots leaders participating in this forum who are dedicated to the cause of a free and unified Korea. Thank you again, Dr. Feulner. Dr. Hyun-Jin Preston Moon is a founder and chairman of the Global Peace Foundation with chapters in 23 nations around the world, promoting a values-based approach to peace building, guided by the vision of one family under God. He's the author of the award-winning book, Korean Dream, A Vision for a Unified Korea. Its new centennial edition, commemorating the 100th anniversary of Korea's Samil independence movement, is a Wall Street Journal national bestseller. Dr. Moon is from a family that has played a pivotal role in working for Korea's independence and development across 4 generations. He has continued to build upon the family's legacy of patriotism for the nation and service to the world for over 3 decades. Today, he provides visionary leadership to Action for Korea United, the largest grassroots coalition for Korean unification in history, engaging over 1,000 NGOs. Please welcome Dr. Moon for his keynote address.
Greetings to our global audience, and thank you for your interest in the important issues on the Korean Peninsula today. I would like to thank Ambassador An Ho-young, Dr. Henry Wang, Dr. William Parker, and my very good friend, Dr. Edwin Feulner, founder of the Heritage Foundation, for bringing your key leadership voices to this very important forum. Likewise, I sincerely appreciate and commend all the activist leaders participating today with Action for Korea United, Alliance for Korea United USA, AKU Japan, and other networks from around the world. Today we commemorate the 75th anniversary of Korea's liberation from colonial occupation. Japan's surrender, ending World War II, concluded a painful chapter in Korean history and should have opened the way to the realization of the Samil independent movement's dream for a united, independent, and free Korea. Tragically, that dream was buried under ideological division and the subsequent Korean War. Efforts to resolve that division proved fruitless, as the two Koreas remained locked within the geopolitical framework of the Cold War. Even today, more than 30 years after the collapse of the Soviet Union, that framework continues to adversely influence thinking about the future of the Korean Peninsula. That may be about to change. The global pandemic is disrupting not only the social and working lives of individuals and communities, but also relationships between nations. Governments are stretched to meet their domestic challenges. Vulnerabilities in the global economy and supply chain have been exposed. There will likely be significant political as well as economic ramifications, forcing reevaluation of old models, while at the same time opening up new opportunities. As a source of the pandemic, China has incurred serious criticism and mistrust. It was slow to acknowledge the dangerous outbreak and give timely warning to other nations. It was very secretive with its data about the origin and the spread of the virus. Yet China is assertively promoting a different narrative, touting its pandemic aid to other nations in attempts to position itself as a global leader. China's recent actions show what type of global leader it will be. Along with its aggressive moves in the South China Sea, China is strengthening its grip on Hong Kong through the new Security Act. This has triggered an outcry among Western nations at this brazen attempt to subordinate the rights and freedoms of Hong Kong citizens to strict state security control. Meanwhile, China continues to subject the Uyghur Muslims of Xinjiang to the most comprehensive system of surveillance and control the world has ever seen, likewise sparking worldwide protest. An extensive network of re-education camps erases Uyghur culture and religion and replaces it with Chinese communist state ideology. There is no freedom of religion in China. This points to a core issue of our time that will shape the future of human societies, including the prospects for Korean unification and the character of a united Korea. Ladies and gentlemen, religious freedom is the foundational human right, essential to human nature and the pursuit of a moral, purposeful life. Freedom of speech and all other rights flow from it. Every person has the right to follow their conscience and seek the truth, free from the dictates of any human institution or government. True freedom and true human rights are gifts from God. Because we are made in the image of God, we are, to use the language of the U.S. Declaration of Independence, endowed by the Creator with certain unalienable rights. These do not originate from, nor can be taken away by, any state or human institution. The uniqueness of the United States has been to infuse society with Judeo-Christian principles and moral values with civilizational impact. As a result, it has been a source of inspiration and hope to peoples everywhere seeking freedom and the opportunities it brings. Even when it has fallen short in practice, its founding ideals have served as a moral compass to judge American realities and guide the way forward. This is precisely what President Abraham Lincoln did in his Gettysburg Address, drawing on America's founding ideals to lead the nation through the tumultuous Civil War and to end slavery. States such as China and Russia, however, are a marked contrast. Their fundamental ideologies deny that human rights and freedoms are endowed by the Creator and are unalienable, opening the possibility for human abuse. As a result, although China has adopted some aspects of a market system, it maintains strict state control under its Communist Party and determines what rights and freedoms its subjects will be allowed. It does not recognize the intrinsic nature of those rights, without which there can be no enduring basis for liberty. It is essential that a unified Korea recognizes the transcendent source of rights and freedoms for its citizens, as is reflected in its deep spiritual heritage. Emerging from division as a new nation, it must be rooted in a firm foundation of universal spiritual principles and moral values. These form the essential bedrock for true liberty. 홍익인간, living for the greater benefit of all humanity, is the founding aspiration of the Korean people, and fulfilling it is their providential destiny mandated by God. Connected with other principles that call for the raising up of virtuous citizenry, it represents the original ethic and moral compass of the Korean nation and Korean identity. This uniquely Korean expression of universal principles was the guiding ideal for the independence movement of 1919, in a way that echoed the role of the Declaration of Independence in the American experience. It remains profoundly relevant to Korea's challenges today. It forms the basis of what I call the Korean dream and have explained in my book of that name. It describes a vision for a unified Korea with origins long before the sufferings under colonial rule and the division of 1945. As a result, I believe it has the power to unite the factions of left and right in the South, and ultimately Koreans in both North and South on the basis of a shared historic identity and a common, noble national vision and purpose. The Korean Dream vision of unification would not only fulfill the long-held aspirations of our ancestors, but will also open up a new chapter of greater prosperity and peace for the peninsula. It would bring together the existing synergistic elements of both Koreas for the benefit of all. The South has a highly developed economy and is starting to plateau and is in dire need of new avenues for growth. The North provides those opportunities through its untapped natural resources, extensive need for new industries and infrastructure, an expanded labor pool, and in the long run, a larger combined domestic market. Although South Korea is acclaimed as a high-tech economic marvel, it has serious limitations. Its chaebol system of crony capitalism stifles competition, while its government-run banking system only greases the wheels of those same conglomerates, limiting access to capital for small and medium-sized firms. This severely limits entrepreneurship, the main driver of innovation and job growth. As a result, frustrated, highly educated, and tech-savvy youth lack opportunities for gainful employment, as well as upward mobility and a pathway to realize their dreams. South Korea has the highest rate of unemployment among college graduates of any developed nation. This is a huge waste of talent, as well as socially unsettling. I have long advocated opening up the Korean economy to greater competition and direct foreign investment. One of the most important steps to accomplish this is to privatize Korean banking in order to make it more market-oriented in providing credit to small and mid-sized companies. Such reforms would yield immediate benefits for the South as more Koreans engage in entrepreneurial activities and capital creation. With these changes, Seoul could become the new business and financial center of Northeast Asia. The recent crackdown of freedoms in Hong Kong makes Seoul a natural alternative due to its strategic location, stable democratic government, stellar infrastructure, innovative high-tech sector, and relatively open markets. With the financial and banking reforms I have advocated, it could become a hub in the Pacific Rim, as New York and London are in the Atlantic sphere, making it one of the most dynamic cities in the world. Most importantly, the Korean Dream vision provides a new opportunity for Koreans to take charge of our own destiny and create a new nation, rising above the existing framework of division. Unlike the 20th century, today it is realistic to assume that a global consensus can be built around the principle of Korean self-determination. It means that we, as Koreans, have a unique chance to realize the Hongik-Ingan ideal of building a model nation if we could only dare to dream together. If we don't align our national aspirations for all Koreans, this opportunity could be lost. The mystery surrounding the health of Kim Jong-un could portend another tumultuous transition of power in the North. With no obvious candidates in the Kim family, its future leadership could be more unpredictable than in the past. Instability during a transition could lead to Chinese intervention in North Korean affairs. Does the North really want to tie their future to an increasingly assertive China, whose policies are generating growing opposition in the world? Are they ready to slide back to the status of a tributary state as Korea was under the Chinese Empire? South Korea needs to address these same issues. Given China's statist ideology and recent actions, the Moon administration needs to rethink its current move towards China and away from its traditional alliance with the United States and Japan. The South's best guarantee against the ever-present Chinese threat is its tripartite partnership and its intermediary role between China and the democracies of the First World. If the South manages its growing geopolitical position wisely during this period of transition in Northeast Asia, it could benefit the Korean people greatly. Although the Moon-Kim and subsequent Trump-Kim summits of 2018 and 2019 have proved fruitless, they did expose the faulty assumptions about how to achieve denuclearization and peace. At the time, I noted that Moon's engagement with the North was nothing more than a new variation of the failed Sunshine Policy of his ideological predecessors, and I predicted that it would fail. I also strongly warned the United States against engaging in bilateral talks with the North on the narrow issue of denuclearization, since Kim would never abandon his nuclear program. It was no surprise then that both initiatives failed and set the stage for worsening relationships with the North. The sobering conclusion is that intergovernment initiatives driven by narrow interests and short-term goals have reached a dead end, and there is no prospect for further progress. A new, more comprehensive and long-term solution is necessary that will bypass entrenched positions of the past. It is important to understand that both North and South Korea profess that a united peninsula is their long-term goal, although they have diametrically opposed views of both the process and the outcomes of unification. However, both do agree on the principle of Korean self-determination. These underlying assumptions should be considered in developing a larger strategic solution to the problems of denuclearization and peace. Unification should be the starting point in any serious discussion in finding a permanent solution to the aforementioned problems. Without it, the underlying interests and forces on the peninsula and the region would not be addressed, raising the likelihood that any piecemeal solution will fail. I have always urged the United States to develop a strategic vision for Northeast Asia in which Korean unification and reconstruction are addressed, like the Marshall Plan for Europe and MacArthur's efforts for Japan after World War II. From a strategic perspective, the U.S. should recognize a need for principled unification as the long-term permanent solution to the denuclearization and regional peace. A Korean-led process for unification should become the foreign policy goal of the United States on the peninsula. It should be backed by its commitment to support the process both economically and geopolitically. U.S. leadership and example would stimulate the international community to support this initiative. This will ensure that a new Korean nation shares the principles and values of Western democracies while maintaining its unique historical, cultural context to the rest of Asia. Ladies and gentlemen, where governments have failed, the torch should pass to civil society movements of the Korean people themselves at home and abroad. That coalesces their popular will and also builds stronger international support for their cause. The Korean Dream approach is already inspiring such a movement that is forging a global consensus for principled unification. This monumental effort is being carried out by people power movements that draw together the collective strengths of civil society organizations, activists, and ordinary citizens. In 2012, I promoted the founding of Action for Korea United, AKU, a comprehensive coalition of such civil society organizations working to advance unification based upon the Korean Dream. AKU educates citizen leaders empowers activists, and leverages the power of music and culture to build awareness and support among the youth and the broader public. Among its groundbreaking initiatives are programs that engage South Koreans to discuss what sort of nation a unified Korea should be in order to build a consensus on the issue. It also promotes an information campaign to the North where Korea's history and identity, and most of all, the Korean Dream principles and values, are shared with North Korean elites. The AKU movement is spreading globally with important efforts underway in the US, Japan, UK, and elsewhere. Alliance for Korea United USA is building significant momentum for the unification cause, drawing on the legacy of strong Korean American support for the Korean independence movement. In Japan, AKU is addressing key human rights issues as it works to build support for Korean unification within this very important historic nation. These initiatives are significant since I have always believed that unification must be Korean-led. Other powers cannot be allowed to dictate the fate of the Korean people as they have done throughout the 20th century. Koreans today must take charge of our own destiny. Now is a time for Koreans in the South, North, and diaspora to step away from the Cold War framework with all of its complex entanglements and to adopt a new vision of unity and prosperity rooted in our founding and revived in the movement for independence. The Korean Dream brings into focus for a new generation the aspirations of our ancestors to create a new nation that is truly united, independent, and free. Through it, they can heed our forefathers' call and fulfill our national destiny. It is a vision that can inspire every Korean with pride and determination to work for its achievement, finally ending the history of division and opening a new era of peace and opportunity for our people and the entire human family. On this 75th anniversary of Liberation Day, let us reflect on the hopes of our ancestors in 1945 and make a solemn pledge to ourselves, our families, and our countrymen to seize the opportunity of this moment and realize their dream of Hongik-ingan by creating a model nation that can truly serve all of humanity. Ladies and gentlemen, may God bless you and your families. Thank you very much.
감사합니다. Thank you, Dr. Moon, for your inspiring message reminding us of the power of vision and the central truth that our rights are endowed to us by God and not granted to us by any government. The Korean Dream provides such a timely and hopeful approach to finally end the division of the Korean homeland. Thank you. Today, many participants have joined from the Republic of Korea, as well as many other nations around the world. We would now like to see some of the many groups gather from those countries.
From early this morning, AKU members and opinion leaders from various fields get together, not only through online, but also offline in 11 cities across Korea to participate in this forum. Then let's connect to local sites to meet the leaders gathered with the passion to realize peaceful unification through the vision of Korean Dream. All members from 11 sites across Korea will deliver our wishes for peaceful Korean unification by holding the tower with the slogan, One Dream, One Korea, One World.
2021년 8월 15일 민주화된 평양에서 축포를 쏠 수 있도록 우리 모두 같은 꿈을 꿉시다. One Dream,
One Korea, One Korea.
AKU Japan.
We support
One dream, one Korea, one world.
우리는 AKU USA입니다. 한반도의 평화적 통일을 위하여
One dream, one Korea, one world.
Fighting!
Fighting!
From USA, we support one dream, one Korea, one world.
We all from Mongolia will support
one dream,
one Korea,
one world.
Baila.
India supports
Namaste from Nepal.
One dream,
one Korea,
one world. One dream, one Korea, one world.
Mabuhay! Philippines supports one dream,
one world.
Philippines supports one dream, one Korea, one world.
Hello everyone, we are from Indonesia.
We support one dream, one Korea, one world.
We are from
Cambodia.
We support
One dream, one Korea, one world.
All Kenyans.
We support one dream, one Korea, one world.
We are all Tanzanians and we support one dream, one Korea, one world.
One Korea.
Nigerians. We support one dream, one Korea.
Hello, we are participating in this One Korea Forum from the small South American country of Paraguay. We fully support One Dream, One Korea, One World. Let's make it happen.
Oh Brasil, apoio one Korea.
Thank you. I am so moved to see many people around the world joining today's forum and supporting One Dream, One Korea, One World. The following video introduces Action for Korea United's many initiatives to build broad support for unification, as well as the activities of the One Korea Global Campaign. We hope you will feel and share the growing passion for unification of Korea and resolve to take initiative in support of unification in your own area of endeavor.
민족의 해방, 그리고 70여 년간 이어진 한반도의 분단. 끝나지 않은 우리 민족의 비극은 이제 한반도를 넘어 세계의 문제로 인식되고 있습니다. 통일의 시대를 맞이하고 있는 지금, 민족 모두가 공감하는 통일 비전에 대한 합의가 이루어져야 합니다. 어떠한 통일 국가를 건설할 것인가에 대한 비전을 제시해야 합니다. 통일을 실천하는 사람들은 세상을 널리 이롭게 하는 나라, 홍익인간의 이상으로 세계 앞에 모범이 되는 통일된 나라를 희망합니다. 자유와 인권, 평화와 번영이 보장된 새로운 나라를 세우기 위해 노력하고 있습니다. 그리고 그 비전을 토대로 광범위한 대중의 참여를 이끌고 있습니다. 통일의 때가 왔습니다. 통일을 실천하는 사람들. 통일을 실천하는 사람들은 홍익인간의 이상을 중심한 코리안 드림을 비전으로 삼고 2012년 창립되었습니다. 그리고 통일 한반도의 비전을 확산하기 위해 3대 실천 방향을 설정하고 1K 글로벌 캠페인을 펼쳐나가고 있습니다. 국제사회 통일공감대 조성. 통일을 실천하는 사람들은 한반도 통일공감대를 조성하기 위해 국제사회와 다각도로 협력하고 있습니다. 국내외의 지도자, 각계 전문가, 그리고 세계 시민이 참여하는 국제적인 이벤트를 정기적으로 열고 있습니다. 대한민국, 미국, 일본, 필리핀 등지에서 국제회의, 포럼, 세미나 등을 열고 코리안 드림의 비전을 공유하고 실천 방향과 방안을 구체적으로 논의하고 있습니다. 또한 헤리티지 재단 등 세계 주요 싱크탱크의 속각들은 우리의 든든한 파트너로서 한반도 통일 환경 조성에 큰 힘이 되고 있습니다. 세계인이 함께 참여하는 통일문화 운동. 음악의 힘으로 세계인들에게 통일의 메시지를 전달하자. 하나의 아이디어로 시작한 우리의 통일문화 운동은 작곡가 김영석과 K-팝 스타 그리고 각계 인사들을 한자리에 모이게 했습니다. 우리는 새로운 통일의 노래를 만들고 2015년 서울 수만 명의 대중이 함께하는 1K 콘서트에 막을 올렸습니다. 새 시대 통일의 노래는 하나의 마음으로 불리워졌고 한반도를 넘어 세계로 나아갔습니다. 세계적인 듀오 프로듀서 지미 잼과 테리 루이스도 우리의 뜻에 공감하고 통일 비전을 세계에 알리는 데 앞장섰습니다. 그리고 필리핀 마닐라의 대형 스타디움에 모인 마닐라의 시민들은 한반도 통일 메시지에 뜨거운 지지를 보냈습니다. 2019년 3.1운동 100주년을 기념해 우리는 민간 주도로는 최초로 대한민국 국회에서 1K 콘서트를 개최했습니다. 문화의 나라, 남북이 하나 된 나라, 세계 평화를 이루는 모델 국가, 선조들이 꿈꾸고 실현하고자 했던 그 정신을 되새기는 축제의 날을 만들었습니다. 3.1운동 100주년의 기운은 8.15로 이어졌습니다. 74주년을 맞이한 광복절, 우리는 전국에서 모인 2만여 시민들과 한반도 통일운동의 실천을 결의했습니다. 그리고 한민족 모두의 마음속에 이어져 왔던 100년의 꿈을 되살리는 무대를 만들었습니다. 민간 주도의 생활형 통일운동. 광범위한 대중의 참여는 한반도 통일운동의 가장 큰 동력입니다. 지역사회 곳곳에서 통일을 실천하는 생활형 통일운동은 통일을 실천하는 사람들의 구체적인 실행 방안입니다. 우리는 시민들의 삶 속에서 코리안 드림의 비전을 나누고 실천할 수 있는 프로그램을 지속적으로 개발하고 운영하고 있습니다. 우리의 목표는 한반도 통일이어야 합니다. 공통의 목적인 한반도 통일 실현을 위한 광범위한 시민의 참여를 이끌어야 합니다. 남북 주민과 해외 동포, 그리고 세계 시민이 참여한 1K 글로벌 캠페인은 앞으로도 지구촌 곳곳으로 확산될 것입니다. 위대한 사회 변혁은 시민들의 적극적인 참여를 통해 이루어집니다. 통일의 때가 왔습니다. 코리안 드림 실현을 통해 세계 앞에 모범이 되는 통일 한반도를 만들어 갑시다. 통일을 실천하는 사람들.
Thank you. Next, we have a very special treat, the debut of a new unification song using the universal language of music to inspire support and passion for the unification of our Korean homeland. AKU has been creating and promoting unification songs to build international awareness for unification through the popular appeal of Korean wave Hanlu. Unification Song campaign began in 2015 with the song One Dream, One Korea performed by BTS and 30 K-pop artists. Then in 2013, the Grammy winners and world-renowned producers Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis released the inspiring new song, Korean Dream. The song of One Dream, One Korea got worldwide attention when it was played as a farewell song for the 2018 Inter-Korean Summit at Panmunjom. Building on these achievements, This year, AKU created Number One Korea, a dynamic expression of our desire to unify the Korean Peninsula by integrating Taekwondo, a traditional Korean martial art, with music and lyrics. The K-Tigers, who participated in the song, are a team of world champion Taekwondo masters. The song is being released for the first time in the world through today's forum. Let's enjoy the music video together.
코리아 원 드림 코리아 원하면 다 되는 넘버 원인 나라 원 드림 코리아 원 드림 코리아 정으로 다 함께 뭉쳐 사는 나라 달라진 마음을 보듬고 감싸 안고 좌우에 날개로 날아라 새처럼 훨훨 힘차게 훨훨 세계로 훨훨 더 높이 훨훨 더 멀리 원 드림 원 코리아 원 드림 원 코리아 원하면 다 되는 넘버 원인 나라 원 드림 원 코리아 원 드림 원 코리아 원하면 다 되는 넘버 원인 나라 원 드림 원 코리아 원 드림 원 코리아 정으로 다 함께 뭉쳐 사는 나라 달라진 마음을 보듬고 감싸 안고 좌우에 날개로 날아라 새처럼 훨훨 힘차게 훨훨 세계로 훨훨 더 높이 훨훨 더 멀리 원 드림 원 코리아 원 드림 원 코리아 원하면 다 되는 넘버 원인 나라 원 드림 원 코리아 원 드림 원 코리아 정으로 다 함께 뭉쳐 사는 나라 넘버 원 넘버 원
Thank you. I think this song, with the dynamism of Taekwondo, well expresses the desire of Koreans for unification of our homeland. We hope that this song will further encourage consensus and support for the unification of the Korean Peninsula, not only among citizens in Korea, but also among peoples around the world. To conclude our forum, in Tex Hall, a co-chairman of AKU will now give remarks. Mr. Sul has won several commendations from the South Korean President and the Ministry of Unification in recognition of his contributions to the unification movement through AKU.
Hello everyone. It is my great honor and privilege to have the precious opportunity to speak with you. First of all, on behalf of members of Action for Korea United, I'd like to convey my deepest appreciation to all of the speakers who sacrificed their valuable time to share their wisdoms and ideas for the realization of a free and unified Korea. And also I'd like to thank all of you who are attending this forum in online. It is not always easy to someone whose vision is not clear to remain confident and positive about the future. In particular, complex issues such as unification are one of them. However, for the past several years, the International Forum on One Korea has been trying to keep our optimistic hopes alive, awakening us to sense the new opportunities and guiding us to know what to do. I believe when the moment of the unification comes, the significance of this effort we are making today will be properly recognized by the world, because it is a naive idea to believe that great social changes can be made by happenstance or a series of coincidences. It is certain that on the road to Korea unification, we'll meet a lot of difficulties and challenges. To reach the destiny of unification, it requires a clear vision, consistent and constant effort. That is why I'm really proud about the International Forum on One Korea. Although there are many other forums regarding Korea unification, but this forum is unique. The significance of this forum is to try to build the consensus on the vision of Korea unification. Since this forum was launched, and Korean Dream, the vision for a unified Korea, was introduced through this forum, it is proved that building a consensus on the vision is possible, not only among Koreans, but also it can be supported by international communities. As we experienced it today again, Korean Dream provides the right framework to begin our dialogue for the unification. I believe what we shared today was timely and produced a fruitful result. As the chairman, Dr. Hyun-Jin Preston addressed in his early speech today, AKU has been leading many grassroots initiatives in Korea and overseas with Korean diaspora communities. We all members participating to Action for Korea United movement clearly understand this is the most sacred vision in our lifetime. Let's ask again to ourselves, is there anything more important work than saving our 24 million people who are suffering tremendously in North Korea? We must end the 75 years of division and the Korean War, which lasted 70 years, by the peaceful unification in the near future. Sooner the better. On this 75th anniversary of Korean Liberation Day, let's commit ourselves again with the spirit of the independence fighters who sacrificed their lives to build a new independent and unified Korea. It is our time. This dream surely will come true if we dream together, stand together, and work together. I'd like to thank again to all of you who made this online forum possible. I wish everybody staying safe and healthy. Thank you so much. See you again.
Finally, I'd like to thank all our forum speakers and the many participants who joined online from across Korea and around the world. Our next forum on Free and Unified Korea will be on September 30th on the topic of advancing Northeast Asia regional cooperation. Like this forum, it will be convened on Zoom and will be hosted by AKU and GPF together with Blue Banner in Mongolia. Please continue to follow the announcements and reports of today's forum on the GPF website, globalpeace.org, and across our social media channels. Thank you again for joining us. We now conclude the International Forum on One Korea 2020. 감사합니다.